On this episode of MythBusters, we're taking you out to the ball game.
I want to see you take a full swing and that beanie still stay on your head.
Legendary pitcher Roger Clemens joins the MythBusters All-Stars for a baseball special.
Fastball is like watching a dart go, man. It's beautiful.
And we reveal the physics of a ball in flight.
Sweet!
We're going to touch base with 4 big myths and answer once and for all some of baseball's burning questions. Step up to the plate with Adam and Jamie
That is a bat. That's not a broomstick.
and find out, does cork in your bat give you more clout?
That's the hit!
And can you hit a ball so hard that the hide comes clean off?
Wow.
Meanwhile, Carrie, Tori, and Grant discover if a humid ball is harder to hit.
Nice.
Woo!
And does sliding into base actually slow you down?
Wow, that looked like it hurt.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
Is everybody ready for diving?
and Jamie Heineman.
Gets me all worked up just looking at it.
That was beautiful!
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
That was heavy.
Joining them, Grant Imahara,
Jamie makes it look so easy when he does it.
Tori Belleci,
Somebody order some exploding pants.
and Carrie Byron.
High explosives and electricity. Woo!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. Nothing says America quite like baseball.
Baseball is one of the great common denominators of American life. When game time rolls round, there are no social barriers.
Hot dogs and home runs, base sliding, and big hits. For decades, it's been the country's national pastime. And so you guys figured it'd be the perfect arena for the MythBusters to take a swing and a myth.
You guys like baseball?
Are you kidding? I love going to the ball game.
Well, so do our fans, and they have inundated us with baseball myths to bust.
So what do we got?
Can a corked bat hit a ball further?
And what about whether sliding into base is quicker than running?
How about the one, does a dry ball go farther than a humid ball?
Exactly. And can you hit a baseball so hard, you knock the hide right off?
Sweet.
And we have got a real baseball legend to help us out.
Who?
None other than the Roger Clemens.
Roger Clemens? How did we get him?
Turns out the Rocket's a fan of the show.
Well, let's play ball.
That's right, it's the MythBusters and the MythBuster. He's one of the all-time baseball greats, pitcher Roger Clemens. In a career spanning more than 20 years, the man they call the Rocket has won a World Series and taken out the prestigious Cy Young Award an amazing 7 times. He also happens to be a big fan of MythBusters. And Jamie's stammering with excitement.
I'm speechless to have the Roger Clemens here helping us deal with these baseball issues.
Later in the show, we'll study the mojo of the throw and answer once and for all the age-old question. Can a baseball really slide and curve? Or is it just an optical illusion?
I'm gonna try and give it my best out here so you can tell what this baseball actually does with these high-speed cameras.
We'll return to Roger later. In the meantime, our first baseball myth's a real corker.
Man, how great is it to have Roger Clemens helping us do baseball myths?
Yep, can't wait to see him do his stuff.
Well, our first myth is a total classic, the corked bat.
What's a corked bat about?
Here's the idea. You drill a hole in the end of a normal regulation Major League Baseball bat, you put some cork in there, you plug it back in with wood, and that bat is all of a sudden able to hit balls a lot farther.
Is that legal in baseball?
It's ever so slightly totally illegal.
Huh.
You bet it's illegal. In 2003, the baseball world was rocked when star slugger Sammy Sosa's bat split during a game, exposing a cork core. He claimed it was a practice bat he'd picked up by mistake. but Sosa was immediately ejected from the game and suspended for 7 matches.
What do you think our general plan is?
Well, we get a bunch of bats, figure out how to cork some of them, and see which one will hit a ball further.
I think we should remove the human element from this as much as we can. Let's make a machine that swings the bat at the exact same speed every time.
Yeah, and while we're at it, we need to do the same sort of thing with the ball, only we can use a cannon instead of the swinging machine.
You know what? I'm thinking that we've already built everything we need to test this myth for previous episodes. We don't need to go out anywhere. It's all right here in the shop.
Yeah, a few modifications maybe, but they'll work.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a MythBusters first. No blueprint diagrams, no time-consuming builds. This baseball myth will be totally off the shelf.
Cary Grant and Torrey built a sword swinging rig when they were doing sword cutting a sword. That's perfect for swinging a baseball bat. And 2, Jamie and I already built an air-powered cannon.
That is so wrong.
Which is perfect for throwing baseballs at speeds well up to the supersonic range, I think. All right, here we go. I'm flicking the switch.
First, at test firing, just to blow away the cobwebs.
That's a nice download, man. That is fast.
Now, a Roger Clemens fastball fizzes towards the batter at between 90 and 100 miles per hour.
There we go.
But Adam and Jamie will go for a more average fastball speed, about 80 miles an hour.
Let's just quickly try 7 psi.
The air pressure required to do that is around 7.5 pounds per square inch.
At
7.5 psi.
here we go.
79 miles per hour. Close enough. Next, gotta get the batting rig into the swing of things.
I'm going to swing this bat on high-speed camera, and we're going to measure how fast it is and calibrate this machine so it swings the bat just as fast. All right, let me give my hands a moment to recover. And my dignity.
Take your time, buddy. We could watch this all day.
Can we move on to something else now? Let's cut to me swinging. Here we go. Cut.
Adam's clean swing clocks 62 miles per hour. That equates to air pressure of 70 psi.
Okay.
All they have to do now is cork some bats. But baseball authorities don't want us to show exactly how that's done. And as Adam tampers with the timber, he's wondering if this whole quirky cork caper isn't a case of mind over matter.
Since 1970, 6 major league hitters have been caught using a corked bat. Kind of makes you wonder if there's something to it.
Well, the act of corking a bat does remove some weight, but if you want to swing with a lighter bat, there's nothing in the regulations that prevent you from just going and getting a lighter bat.
Then why do it?
Well, to a major league hitter, the psychological advantage may be huge. If you believe your bat has special power, you may be more likely to get that hit.
And that could be the difference between being struck out or making a home run.
Exactly.
The pitching cannon is primed, ready to fire. The bat bot is poised over the plate, all set to swing. Better stand back, because Jamie's workshop is about to become a batting cage.
And we're going to put up a net. Aren't we putting up a net? I think we're going to put up a net. And she's really good at catching balls.
Testing baseball myths with cannons and robots. Isn't that so, MythBusters?
Something's going to go someplace where it shouldn't. We're going to have mayhem and destruction one way or another. Yeah. Oh, but what the heck? It's all in the name of science.
It's the MythBusters Baseball Special, and the next myth's hot off the fan site.
I've got a really cool baseball myth. This one is all over the internet.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, the idea is if you keep your baseballs in a humidor, like the thing that you keep your cigars fresh with, that it makes it really hard to hit a home run with.
Yeah, I saw this one on our website. And according to the fans, at one stadium in particular, once they started keeping their balls in a humidor, the number of home runs went down dramatically.
For years, the Colorado Rockies' home ground in Denver had the highest home run rate in the majors. But since they started storing baseballs in a humidor, the run rate has dried up. Is there a link?
Well, to test this myth, I think first off, we're going to need to build a humidor and stick some baseballs in it.
You know what we should also do is dry out a set of baseballs so that way we have something to compare to.
So before we go to the park and start hitting balls around, I think what we should do is set up a small-scale experiment in our shop. We'll drop both the dry balls and the humid balls from the same height and see which bounces higher.
It's a good idea.
Grant's plan: a vacuum pump holds the balls at a certain height, then drops them one by one in front of a scale.
So one important thing about this myth is that we drop the balls exactly the same way every time. So we're going to be very careful about how we attach the ball to the cup, making sure to line up the stitching the exact same way. And that way we can remove some of the variables from this experiment. So, we'll have our humidified and dry balls hanging from the ceiling. And then when we want to drop, there you go.
Out in the car park, the guys set up to get the drop on this baseball myth.
He's going to be dropping from a height of 125 inches. So it's like 10.5 feet.
They'll drop 10 balls. The first 5 have spent 2 weeks locked in an old fridge with a dehumidifier, which cut humidity to just 10%.
Some good bouncing.
Yeah. These are all about 110 centimeters.
Ball 5.
Thank you.
There's no ball 5?
Not in baseball, there's no ball 5. But on MythBusters. Wow.
The high-speed camera shows the dry balls bounced an average height of 106 centimeters.
That's pretty consistent.
Great. Let's move on to the humid balls.
The other 5 balls spent the same time in a makeshift humidor. Carrie put a block of waterlogged foam in a perforated plastic container and then put that and the balls in a cooler. As the water evaporated, vapor escaped through the holes,
Seal this up.
raising the humidity inside the cooler to a damp 90%.
Humid ball number 1. Feel that. Just from touching it, you can tell that it's softer.
Can this batch scale the same dizzy heights as the dry balls?
Oh.
Wow.
All right.
After soaking up the atmosphere in Carrie's cooler, it seems the humid balls just can't bounce back. The average height of a humid ball bounce is 91 centimeters, as opposed to 106 centimeters for the dry balls. That's a difference of 14%.
Now, in your typical baseball scenario, with an outfield of, say, 425 feet, 14% is almost 60 feet, which is a difference between an out or a home run.
That was really amazing. I think it definitely warrants further investigation.
Yeah, I say we get out to the baseball field and start hitting these balls and see which ones go farther.
Well, I just don't think we'll be able to both pitch and hit consistently every time. And what we really need to do is isolate the variable of humidity.
You know what I'd also like to do? I'd like to introduce a control into this experiment. You know, a mid-range humidity that we can test against the 2 extremes.
All right, sounds good.
Now, Adam and Jamie have already got the batting machine and the pitching cannon tied up, trying to crack the case of the corked bat. So, Grant's gone one better and designed a robot that bats and pitches. Here's the deal. The robot will have 2 arms, one holding a bat, one holding a ball. A motor turns the arms, bat connects with ball, ball goes flying to the fence. It's going to be geared for raw power.
Is this our gear?
Yeah,
Dude, it looks like a saw blade.
While the beefy batting machine takes shape, the guys have been pondering the background to this major league myth.
So, how did the Rockies come up with the idea for keeping their baseballs in humidors?
It's all about altitude. Denver's about a mile above sea level, and their stadium is the highest in the major leagues. At that altitude, the air is drier.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, drier air is going to give you drier baseballs.
And as the balls dry out, they get harder, which theoretically means they'll travel further when they're hit.
You know, one other thing about the altitude is at that height, the air pressure is going to be a lot lower, which will allow the baseballs to travel farther.
Precisely.
Back in the dugout, Torrey's got a bat in place. A clamp has a pincer grip on the ball.
And it's out of here!
So I've got my motor. It's mounted to a beefy plate on the machine. It's wired up to the speed control. That goes to a safety switch, which has this key. And that goes to a bank of batteries. And I'm ready to fire it up for the first time.
The robot batter's wired up. Grant gives it the juice.
3, 2, 1.
The ball jolted free before contact. The bat smashed into the springs, really hitting a groove.
So we're gonna ditch the springs and go with some foam, some kind of rigid blue foam.
When the bat comes through, it'll hit the ball and break the foam, not breaking the bat. Hopefully this will work.
In 3, 2, 1.
Hey! Good job!
The bat is still intact.
Looks like the mad batter's ready to be taken out to the ballpark. On the MythBusters baseball special, Carrie, Torrey, and Grant have been bouncing around the myth that a humid baseball is harder to hit out of the park.
All right.
But before they go to the park, the team first wants to know what our guest star, baseball legend Roger Clemens, thinks of this tall tale.
So, Roger, I've heard something about the air in Denver that is, I guess it's drier. There's something about humid balls and baseball pitching. Tell me about it.
All I know and have heard is that the Colorado Rockies have a humidor that they store quite a few baseballs in for that reason. And I have pitched in Colorado, and it is difficult to make the ball, get your normal movement out of your breaking ball pitches.
Really?
A humid ball might be harder to pitch, but is it also harder to hit? Torrey, Carrie, and Grant are off to get some ballpark figures.
Here we are in beautiful San Jose, and look at the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready, because you are about to witness dry balls versus humid balls. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to use our robot batting machine, and we are going to hit 30 dry balls and 30 humid balls. And whichever goes farther takes it all home.
It's wood all the way in the big league, but in this case, an aluminum bat might better cope with the rigors of the rig.
We've got 3 sets of balls. Humid balls at 90%, dry balls at 10%, finally a control group at about 50%. Now our baseball hitting robot is situated right on home plate. It's gonna hit balls into the outfield. Torrey and Carrie will be out there with different colored flags, one for each type of ball, and they'll mark the point where the ball first hits the ground.
In their small-scale test, the humid balls had 14% less bounce. Will that result be replicated in the real world? Now, the robot worked okay in the shop, but you guys know only too well how things go on this show. It's a brand new, intricate rig with high-speed moving parts. Seriously, what are the chances of it working first time?
Okay, first we have the control at 50% humidity with the aluminum bat. 3, 2, 1. Nice!
Well, I'll be. Far from striking out, the mad batter's striking those balls as clean as Babe Ruth himself.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I'm really happy with the rig. So chic.
The guys mix it up, sending a barrage of dry, normal, and humid balls soaring into the sky.
Nice.
I love it.
Given the small scale result, my feeling is that these balls are going to go not as far as the dry balls. You know, since there's more moisture in the ball, they're heavier, they're not going to go as far, but we'll see.
This is where all the magic happens. This is the data. This is what the experiment is all about.
With no wind to affect the flight of the ball, test conditions are perfect. And already, Grant can see a pattern developing.
Yellow flags, which are the most humid balls, are closer to home plate. The control balls, which are pink, are a little bit further out. And out here in the outfield, the dry balls, which are the red flags, are the furthest out. Still too early to call, but I think this might be a trend.
That's good. They're starting to group together.
Like some medieval war machine, the rig keeps kissing leather till the ammo runs out.
There's definitely a pool of yellow, pink, and red flags. That means that the humid balls didn't go as far. Then comes the control at 50% humidity, and the furthest with a 10% humidity, dry balls all the way at the outer edge.
And that totally agrees with our small scale tests.
Yeah, it's a spread of plus or minus 15 feet.
You know, I think there's some truth to this myth, because there's definitely a pattern where the dry balls were going farther than the humid balls.
It's funny how such a small thing can make such a huge difference on the game.
Yep, there are so many variables in baseball, I think it would be hard to attribute a decrease in home runs to just humidity.
You know what's weird, though? Starting this season, Major League Baseball teams are keeping their balls in humidors.
Well, that settles it for me. This is definitely plausible.
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 Meanwhile, Adam and Jamie have been putting a cork in it. Now, the rules of baseball state that a bat must be a single piece of wood. That's how they leave the factory. But in the search for more spring, some players hollow out bats, replacing wood with cork. But does cork equal clout? I'll just let Adam explain.
The heart of this experiment is a timer. One that fires a ball, one that swings a bat. Here's how it started. I release the safety, I click this. This sends electrical signals all the way down here, follow me, to our bank of air tanks, which we built for the Pirate Special Cannon. These two solenoids are activated by that timer. They activate these valves, releasing all the air from these tanks into the bottom of this barrel, in which is one of these balls in a sabot. The ball starts traveling down the barrel. As the ball travels down the barrel, a second electrical impulse activates this quick release on a valve, which releases this bat, which is on a spring on this cylinder here, swinging all the way around. Hopefully, at the very moment the ball is leaving the barrel, hitting the bat right at the point of impact we want, capturing it on high-speed camera, knocking it out of the park, and answering our question once and for all.
The reason we're doing it this way is we need to isolate the effect of the cork. Now, if the bat is swinging at the same speed each time and the cannon is firing the ball at the same speed each time, the only variable here is the corked bat. And that should make it really obvious if the corked bat is providing extra spring.
First, a regulation uncorked bat. The cannon is lubed with lard and a baseball loaded, snug in its foam sabot. We're ready to play ball.
I'm going to fire both of these things at precisely the same second.
Okay.
The tricky part of this experiment is the timing. The ball will be flying at 80 miles per hour and the bat swinging at 60 miles per hour for a combined collision speed of 140 miles per hour. If Adam's timing is out, even by a couple of milliseconds, the two won't connect.
In 3, 2.
Strike one. Cannon and robot weren't in sync, but never fear, the game's not over yet.
High speed says that we've dialed into our correct batting speed. The mechanical bat is swinging just as fast as I was able to, 62 miles an hour. However, the ball is showing up to the party 141 milliseconds early.
Adam tweaks the timer.
I've delayed the ball by 141 milliseconds. Everybody ready? In 5, 4, 3.
This time, Adam's timing was spot on, but the ball rocketed off the bat and smashed a chunk out of the scale.
Ground ball.
Ground ball. So that may mean that this test is invalid because it hit this.
Yeah.
And we don't get a measurement of how fast the ball leaves there.
The guys reset.
Go. That's the hit!
This batting robot's really got its eye in.
That was another good hit. Yeah. Oh.
It hit one side of your shop and then the other.
Oh, there it is. It's in the armature wire.
That's great.
Now that we've seen a number of hits with a regulation bat, what the high-speed camera is telling us is that the ball is consistently leaving the cannon at 80 miles an hour, which happens to be about the speed of a Roger Clemens pitch. It's also leaving the bat once it gets hit at 80 miles an hour. The next thing we need to do is test how fast it leaves the bat when the bat is corked. If it leaves faster, that'll answer our question.
3.
That was a hit.
That was a hit.
The ball is over here.
And the bat is still there. So, with any luck, that's data. The ball is coming into the bat at about 80 miles an hour, but it is leaving that bat at half that speed, at about 40 miles an hour.
Remember, when they tested the regulation bat, the ball was arriving at 80 miles per hour and leaving at almost the same speed. Try again.
That looked like a beautiful hit. That looked like a perfect line drive back towards your welder. That's perfect. That's as good as our best one with the non-corked bat. Our earlier data points with the normal uncorked bat had the ball leaving the bat pretty much at exactly the speed it was going towards the bat at. In both of our good data sets on the corked bat, it's leaving at half the speed.
Loading your lumber with lightweight cork poses two problems. The bat might be lighter and easier to swing, but reduced weight means less energy delivered to the ball. Also, instead of adding extra spring, the cork actually absorbs some of the impact. Those two factors add up to blunted batting ability.
A ball hitting a corked bat is going to leave that bat at a slower speed than a ball hitting a regulation unmodified bat. I mean, they made this thing to hit a ball really efficiently. I don't think it warrants any modification.
Looks like this baseball myth's been knocked out of the park.
Guess what?
What?
I made a commemorative plaque for this myth.
Corked bat, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one way or another, it looks like the guys that got caught using a corked bat got themselves suspended for nothing.
Yeah, you know, while our sample size might have been small, our results were totally unambiguous.
Now, every time a ball came off the corked bat, it was coming off at half the speed that it was off of a normal bat.
Yeah, far from acting like a spring, it was a lot more like a sponge. I gotta say, this one is totally busted.
Totally. It's busted.
On this MythBusters baseball special, it's time for Rocket Roger Clemens to step up to the plate.
I might reach 90 miles an hour today for y'all.
Roger's agreed to throw his whole taxonomy of pitches for us while we shoot it with the high-speed camera from several angles, and that really ought to allow us to break down what's going on from a physics perspective with each of these pitches.
The team is hoping to use the high-speed camera to unravel the mojo of the throw. But to warm up that famous arm, the Rocket first puts some pitches in front of Adam and Jamie.
Room service is right there. It's like somebody bringing you breakfast in the morning. I'm gonna put it right there. You can't miss it. You can close your eyes and hit it. That is a bat. That's not a broomstick. Now swing like you're off. Hey, all right.
The MythBusters may be struck out, but with the Rocket firing on all cylinders, it's time to unravel the parameters of the pitch. First up, a basic four-seam fastball.
We hold the fastball in this manner, and from my understanding, this ball rotates when I let it go in this manner. With four seams, these seams will catch that wind. That ball will track.
fastball is like watching a dart go, man. It's beautiful.
Looking at the high speed, the fastball pitch does exactly what Roger said it'd do. Backspin keeps the ball on the straight and narrow as it rifles over the plate at more than 80 miles an hour. But what happens when Roger changes his grip?
Basically, if you're a fastball here, you're in this area for the slider, and you're offset, and you're basically cutting the side of the ball. It should go maybe down 4 inches and away from a right-handed hitter 4 inches. That's a true slider. There we go. You know it's good when the catcher doesn't catch it.
Roger's found perfect pitch again. The slider veers away to the right of the plate,
Curveball.
while a classic curveball suddenly dips in midair.
The curveball, again, you're using a seam, and it's basically your middle finger. You're grabbing a seam and locking down with pretty firm pressure on this finger here. This one just guides it. And it is a motion where you're throwing it like a fastball, but as you get to the release point, you turn your wrist.
Coming out of Roger's right paw, it's almost as if the ball has a life of its own.
I can see that curving, I
Yeah,
swear.
this speed, you'll definitely see it curving.
But while the high-speed shots show us the ball swerving and dipping, they can't tell us much about how it happens. And that's why Carrie, Tori, and Grant are at NASA's Ames Research Center in San Francisco. Luckily for us, scientist Rabindra Mehta is a big baseball fan.
The beauty of our lab is that we study aerodynamics, fluid mechanics as applied to airplanes or space shuttles, but it's the same fluid mechanics, aerodynamics that's applied to baseballs or soccer balls or what have you.
So basically, you have married your two passions for
Exactly.
science and sports.
Isn't that wonderful?
Okay, so we heard that you actually have a tank where you can show us all of these things visually.
Yes, absolutely. What we'll do now is go over to this water channel where we have a baseball. As you see, it's mounted on a motor, so we're able to rotate it to show you the effects of rotation. But when you see what's going on here, I think it's going to be really cool.
To simulate airflow around a baseball, they introduce streams of fluorescent dye.
That is sweet.
While it's still, the dye flows in a symmetrical pattern around the ball. Now imagine that ball has just been fired from Roger Clemens' fist.
Oh, wow. Look how the aerodynamics change.
As it spins, the airflow is disrupted. The air pressure on the ball's underside suddenly drops.
And this ball now will have a force downwards as it's flying through the air. So this would be your classic curve ball.
Lower air pressure on the bottom of the ball makes it dip during flight. And the principle's exactly the same for each different pitch.
It is the axis of spin that determines what type of pitch it is. With a standard fastball, which is released with backspin, you get an upward lift force. With a slider, the axis of spin would be more or less vertical, and in which case the ball would tend to go towards the left because of that. Then the curveball, tumbling. Spinning about the horizontal axis makes it go down.
So our high-speed shots and NASA show that bendy baseball behavior is no myth. So what about the infamous rising fastball? Many hitters swear that some fastballs suddenly lift in midair as they hurtle towards the plate. Is that a myth?
Now, for it to rise, the lift force due to the spin would have to exceed the weight of the ball, right? That's pretty simple. Now, it turns out that for the type of conditions which we find in baseball, the maximum lift force is only equivalent to about half the weight of the ball.
Not even a pitcher as prodigious as Roger Clemens can make a baseball fly in the face of physics. Throwing a fastball that rises is about as likely as Adam and Jamie hitting home runs in the World Series.
You know, hanging out with Roger Clemens, it becomes really clear that pitching is just as much of an art as it is a science.
Totally agree. And while we were there, we had the added bonus of another myth busted.
Yep, the myth of the rising fastball. And it turns out that for the backspin to exert enough force to lift the ball, it'd have to exert more force than the weight of the ball.
Which it can't.
Which it can't.
Yeah, it might be possible with a beach ball, but not a baseball.
Busted.
Totally busted.
On this baseball special, it's time to get down and dirty as the MythBusters All-Stars take a long run-up at the slide.
All right, this baseball myth is all about the slide.
The what?
Do you watch any sporting events?
Yeah, robot combat. It's a sport.
Right. Well, you know in baseball when you see a guy run to the base and he slides into it?
Oh yes, I have seen that. But wouldn't it be faster just to run?
Well, that's the myth. A lot of people think that on bases that you can't overrun, that it's faster to slide into them.
All right. Sounds like that's worth testing.
Yeah.
The slide is part and parcel of baseball. In trying to beat the tag and hit the bag, a runner sends the kitty litter flying. But when a player hits the dirt, is the friction costing him precious time? Would it be faster to stay on 2 feet?
Okay, so how are we gonna test this?
This one's simple. We just run at the base and then we slide into the base and see which one's faster.
I got the perfect thing to time that. It's accurate down to the millisecond. I can start it when we leave one base and stop it when we tag the next.
Cool. I think we should also throw in the dive, and that's when you lunge at the base face forward and see if that one's any faster.
All right. Let's ask Jamie and see if he wants to play.
Our sporting gurus head on out to the University of Pacific's Stockton campus. Gee, they really look the part, don't they? There's just one teensy problem. None of our All-Stars can slide. But never fear, Uni head coach Ed Sprague has agreed to take on these raw recruits.
All right, I'm going to teach you on the grass so we can minimize the injuries we might have today by the end of the day. All right?
So you're planning on some injuries?
There could be some blood.
Ed spent 11 years in the major leagues, playing for 6 different teams, and is famous for hitting the winning home run in Game 2 of the 1992 World Series. But now he's really got his work cut out for him.
You want to try to take the brunt of the slide on the outside of your shin here, all right? And then on our butt. We don't want to jam our knee into the ground, and we don't want to get our feet way in the air.
Now, as we know, MythBusters often fly by the seat of their pants. So you might think they'd be naturals at this.
Oh! Get the hands up.
Yeah.
But you'd be wrong.
I can make a robot to do it.
In order to test this myth, we're gonna have to be able to slide correctly. So I say we give it a few more minutes, maybe a few more hours till we get it down right. Once we get the slide down right, then we can start testing this myth.
Eventually, the guys' slides start to look more technique and less train wreck.
All right, well, I think you guys have shown enough improvement that we're going to move on to the the dirt over here.
Blood alley, huh?
It's time to get Grant's timing rig up to speed.
So the timer's going to have millisecond resolution. There's one switch to start the sequence. And what you'll do is have your foot on this, and the second you leave, it'll start the timer. There'll be a second switch here that goes to a latching relay, and this is going to be on the bag. So when you come up and hit the bag, and it'll freeze the timer wherever it is.
Predictions?
My feeling is running to the bag, decelerating, and staying on it is going to be faster, but I could be very wrong.
Let's find out. On the first attempt, Tori will run and try and stop dead on the bag.
Ready when you are.
The instant Tori's foot leaves the switch, the timer starts. In his head, he's trying to beat a ball that's flying in from the outfield.
I'm still on. I'm still touching. What was my time?
3.624.
Pretty sure I was safe.
Tori struggled to stop his momentum.
You get going that fast, it's hard to stop. I mean, a lot of mass to go, you're stopped dead on that target.
This time, he's going to slide into base. Can he beat 3.6 seconds? Will he snap his leg off at the knee?
Nice.
Did I stop it?
Nice, you sure did.
Okay, good. Hey, what was my time?
3.572.
By sliding, Tori shaved 0.05 of a second off his previous time. It's not much, but it could be the difference between safe and out. He's lost a little bark, but the coach is happy.
That was a really good slide. He did a great job there. He went as fast as he could, and he did a really good job of keeping his feet going and sliding right hard into the bag.
Time for the other two All-Stars to do their dashes.
Nice. 4.076.
And let their hip bone slip.
It's 100 milliseconds, a tenth of a second faster.
I actually thought that was probably your best slide of the day. And that's a good hard slide right there.
4.13 seconds. Wow, that looked like it hurt. You beat your time. 3.93 seconds.
When the dust settles, the results seem to match Tori's. On test 1, the guys each had to slow their speed at the last second in order to stay upright and not overrun the base. But on the second run, they actually accelerated into the slide, and that last second speeding up shaved milliseconds off the time. It's looking like this myth might have hit the skids. But hold on, there's one other technique they haven't tried.
I'm wondering if diving is faster than sliding. And I think you've got some diving technique, don't you?
I don't know. I feel like we've contested this thoroughly. I don't think we need to do the dive.
We want to see you do the dive.
Come on, Tori, you got to take one for the team. After all, it is in the name of science.
This is your last one, so you might as well leave it all on the field.
I love your attitude. Even leave it all on the field. My blood, my teeth, maybe some bones.
Tori digs deep and eats dirt.
Where's my time?
3.626. Sad to say.
Wow.
Slower than the slide, slower than the run.
And more painful.
All right.
Look at that. Yeah! Oh, dang! You know, this myth is looking confirmed. It looks like it is faster to slide into a bag than it is to slow down and stop on it.
That's what all the data says.
Yep, the numbers don't lie. So, myth confirmed, huh?
Confirmed.
Confirmed.
We're at the bottom of the 9th on this baseball special. There's one final myth, and again, it was the subject of fan site frenzy.
What do we have?
Well, we started this episode out with a myth about the inside of a bat.
Cork bat.
Exactly. We're going to finish it off with a myth about the inside of a ball, specifically that you can hit a baseball hard enough to knock the hide off the ball while the inside itself goes out of the park.
Sounds like another classic cartoon caper. A ball is pitched at such speed and hit with such force that the stitch is split and hide is left behind. It's not a scenario pitchers enjoy contemplating.
Have you ever seen somebody hit the hide off the ball? Is it possible?
Are you saying I give up a lot of home runs? Have I ever seen the hide come off a baseball that I've thrown one in there?
Roger thinks Jamie's got a hide even asking.
I have thrown some balls in there at 94, 95. The hitters, they say, the scouts that sit in the stands that clock the pitches say that the ball has come back over 130, 140 miles an hour. Thank God the ball has not come unraveled. You can definitely put a flat spot in the ball when a guy hits it real hard or squares it up, as we say. But to bring the hide completely off, that would be a chore for you two men. I'm sure you could find something with bring the hide off of.
Oh, we're going to have to investigate this one.
Back at home base, Adam and Jamie plan to test this myth by firing up the air cannon once again. We've already seen that a mere 7.5 psi was enough to send a ball rocketing at 80 miles an hour.
Oh.
That's the hit!
Obviously, that's not fast enough to knock the hide off. So they load a fresh ball and double the air pressure.
Adam, I'm actually at 15 psi.
3, 2.
At 15 psi, the cannon spits that ball out at 170 miles an hour.
Wow. That's really powerful.
More than double the speed of a Clemens aspirin tablet.
Oh. It went through the blanket.
But the hide still hasn't hightailed it. How about 40 psi?
Oh, yeah.
3, 2, 1.
The ball cannoned into the static bat at 200 miles per hour, almost twice as fast as the quickest major league pitch ever recorded. It might be bye-bye bat, but the ball's still not disemboweled.
So the fastest pitch ever recorded is 103 miles an hour. We've got this puppy up to 200 miles an hour. At that speed, it was snapping our bats like twigs, and it still is totally intact.
Well, it's obvious to me that knocking the hide off a ball is way beyond the capability of a human pitcher or batter.
We just gonna leave it there? What do we do now?
Of course not. We've got the rig. Let's open it wide up and see what we can get out of it.
That's just what you were gonna do after we all left anyway, weren't you?
Of course.
All right, let's do that.
They're going full power, 150 PSI. Can that unveil a ball's innards?
The cannon that we're using to fire this baseball was originally created to fire a cannonball, like a 6-pound cannonball. Now we're firing a baseball that weighs, I don't know, 8 ounces or thereabouts. So there's every possibility that this ball could get up into, hundreds and hundreds of miles per hour.
Given what happened last time, there's no point putting a bat in front of that.
That's close enough.
Instead, Jamie lays a length of aluminum pipe in the ball's path.
This is extremely dangerous, but I want to see what this puppy can do.
The rig is pressurized to 150 PSI, almost 4 times the air pressure used in the last test. We're locked and loaded. It's time to take cover.
You can man the switch. Everybody back here.
Everybody in the bag.
With the Scaredy Cat crew safe behind the ballistics panel, Adam triggers the timer.
5, 4, 3, 2.
That's no longer a ball, it's a bullet.
Yeah! That is beautiful! You knocked the skin off the ball.
This is actually what it would take to do that myth.
Right. Absolutely. I want to find the hide.
Okay.
That ball's been peeled like an orange.
I don't know about you, but I don't think that a batter could do that.
This thing was traveling at 437 miles per hour by my math. I don't think there's anyone that can pitch that fast.
That's 4 times as fast as a really good pitcher, or more than that. So that means myth busted.
Swing batter! Dude, that was so much fun.
Yeah, how was it working with Roger Clemens?
It was unbelievable.
All right, well, let's tally up the final score. Cork bat?
Busted.
How about humid balls?
Definitely plausible.
Knocking the hide off a ball?
Totally busted. We had to turn this thing into a bullet before we got anything.
How'd slide go?
It's confirmed. It's definitely faster to slide into a base than to run.
Yeah, who knew? There's actually a lot more to baseball than you might think.
Yeah, I think sports is going to continue to provide a fertile myth-busting ground in the future.
Great, because there's nothing that we're better at than organized sports, right?
See how good we are?
In this episode of MythBusters, Adam and Jamie take a pot shot at one of the craziest myths around.
That was the scariest thing I've ever done on this show.
Is the American border being breached by daredevil slingshotters?
You're out! You're
I'm
out!
free!
And can the team bust the world record for hurling a human projectile?
3, 2, 1.
Who are the MythBusters?
Am I missing an eyebrow?
Adam Savage.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
And Jamie Heineman.
Quack, damn you.
I wouldn't say Jamie's an evil genius.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
When will the fun ever stop?
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
What the hell is a border slingshot?
Well, we have a new myth involving people that are wanting to illegally enter the country, and they've apparently developed a gigantic slingshot capable of launching them 200 yards over the top of a fence, and supposedly it's accurate enough to land them in a mattress on the other side.
Well, I've heard they're not only doing this with individuals, but they're offering a family package where they can shoot up to 4 people over that fence and onto that tiny little mattress.
Well, here's a couple who will probably get a big bang out of their work.
The myth has its roots in the long and scary history of human cannonballs.
They go hurtling with terrific speed through the open space.
Ever since the 1870s, people have been firing themselves on ballistic trajectories. But could you really cross the border like this?
So what is our plan?
Well, the first thing we have to do, I guess, is replicate a big slingshot. And it's going to have to be something that is capable of launching, say, a 185-pound person 200 yards. That's a big-ass slingshot.
Yeah, at least one person. Well, you know, in order so that we don't build something massive and get it wrong, I really think we should start with some small-scale testing of all the various materials we could use specific lengths of that, shoot different objects of different weights, and come up with, hopefully, an equation that'll tell us what's the best thing to use for a full-size slingshot.
Well, you know, with a big build like this, it's always best to start with a small scale. It ought to tell us something.
So, armed with a small is beautiful philosophy, Adam and Jamie ease into this myth.
Targets. More targets.
With a store-bought slingshot challenge.
I know how much you love competition. Shall we do a little slingshot challenge? See if I can hit the blue jays out of the apple trees like you did back in the 20s?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Let's say 5 points, 4 points, 3 points, 2 points.
Okay.
You feeling lucky, buddy?
Nope.
You feeling lucky?
They'll calculate velocity using the high-speed camera. These slingshots aren't toys, so don't try this at home.
These are like bullets. They will hurt.
They will kill.
Well, it'll hurt to dig them out of your leg. That was pretty good. I wasn't even aiming for bullseye. 0 points for Mr. Heineman.
I had 2 bullseyes in a row earlier.
I had 2 bullseyes in a row earlier.
4.
4-pointer. Hey, 5-pointer. In your face, man.
Adam's not used to winning MythBusters competitions. But for once, he's right on target.
Nope, not even close.
Woo! Another pointless competition brought to you by MythBusters.
That looked like a lot of fun, but how about the science? Their steel shot reached speeds of up to 85 miles per hour. At competition level, slingshots can achieve twice that, so there's plenty of room for improvement.
We now want to look at a whole variety of different materials, elastics, shock cords, bungee cords, rubbers, etc., and see if one of those gives a better velocity or a better contraction, and we'll learn a lot more about what actually gives us the ideal slingshot.
They're scaling things up a notch by turning the scissor lift into a medium-range slingshot.
It's important for this thing to be fairly rigid because we're going to be looking very closely at the speeds and dynamics of what are going on. If the platform moves, that's a variable that will give us, false results.
Adam decides to make the test missile weigh exactly 1 kilo, metric being the international scientific unit of measurement.
That hole took about 50 grams out of it, so 2 more holes ought to do just the ticket.
A 1 kilo weight will make it easier to analyze their results when they carry out their test firings.
Hey! How about that? Exactly a kilo.
With an array of test firings planned, Adam paints the projectile to guard against lead poisoning, because that's bad.
fabric, velvet stripes, white, yellow, orange. Do you see leather?
He's looking for material to make a firing pouch. One perfectly good pair of gloves. No Jamie in sight? Sorted. A quick snip, a couple of stitches, a pair of grommets, and Jamie's none the wiser.
It looks like it shouldn't grab a hold of it.
Yeah.
A delivery to M5 turns out to be a box full of bungee.
This is the commercial stuff.
Right.
And that's the military stuff. For the same size, this has my money.
With a whole day of testing ahead, Adam's unhappy with the rig.
You can do all the firing then. That scares the out of me.
Okay.
I mean, you're running it over a hard point. I mean, you could humor me and soften that with the angle grinder and stuff like that, but running it through such a hard point makes me terrified.
I'm happy to soften that.
Jamie softens the edges and strengthens the yoke by welding on a pair of support struts. And before the day is done, the rig's done too.
Whoa. Dude.
So it's out to M5's lot to see if the scissor lift slingshot will cut the mustard.
Well, we're just sort of dialing our system in right now. We've got the scissor lift set up to be the yoke of our slingshot. We've got some military grade bungee here and our 1 kilo ball. And I hope we don't hit that blue van all the way at the end of the parking lot. I suspect we'll hit somewhere about halfway between here and there.
In the myth of border slingshot, Adam and Jamie prepare their scissor lift rig for a day of test firing. They're trying to work out what it would take to launch a human 200 yards across the U.S. frontier. In Oxfordshire, Great Britain, the Mad Dogs and Englishmen of the Dangerous Sports Club built a medieval trebuchet to toss adrenaline junkies 180 feet at speeds of up to 40 miles per hour. In the year 2000, the unfortunate Stella Young took the ride. She hit the safety net, then the ground, and then the headlines. Stella escaped with a broken pelvis. 2 years later, a 19-year-old man missed the net completely and died. Before the MythBusters work their way up to a human-sized slingshot, they're going to carry out extensive testing on small projectiles using 5 different types of rubber.
When Jamie heads out into the jungle, this is often all he wears.
First up, a 1 meter length of military bungee and a 1 kilo projectile. The ruler is at 45 degrees to the scissor lift for the best firing angle.
Can I do the first one?
Sure.
Mark this off at the maximum stretch.
Jamie marks the release point so that when they scale up to full size, they'll know how much pullback space they'll need.
And 3, 2, 1. Jamie's standing exactly where it landed.
You can see it hit right here.
Test number 1, military bungee propelled our 1 kilogram weight about 67 feet. So the next one up is the stranded shock cord. This stuff is apparently super expensive.
First, they measure the tension and pullback distance.
3, 2, 1.
43 feet.
That's a full 24 feet less than the military bungee. Next up, solid shock cord.
In 3, 2, 1.
38.5.
I suspect we started with the best.
I'm curious to see what the surgical rubber does, because I have a suspicion that might be the best, but I don't really know. Not having handled military-grade bungee cord before.
Not in a long time, not since Da Nang, right?
Last, but if Jamie's right, not least, 1/4-inch surgical tubing. It's more elastic than the other material, so they have to raise the scissor lift to get a 45-degree angle.
You want to just hold it and I'll fire it and we'll see where it lands?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, where's the ball?
The ball's up there, of course. Where else would it be?
The pullback is 14 feet, double the distance of the other contenders. The tension measures 37 pounds.
And
And 3, 2, 1.
Where did that go?
Someplace in the grass.
Really? I didn't think that was going to work that well.
The high-speed footage records a velocity of almost 100 feet per second, over double the speed of the shock cords, and 33% faster than the military bungee.
Hey, Jamie. It went over the truck and it hit the wall. I think we have our answer, or part of it.
The surgical rubber delivered double the distance of the next best, the military bungee. But could the pullback be a problem?
Best performer we've had so far in our testing is the surgical tubing, the 1/4-inch surgical tubing. It way outperformed the other materials. However, when we scale it up, you might have to drag 6 strands of surgical tubing like 200 feet, and that's just not feasible for us. We may end up going with something like the military bungee, which has a less of a throw, but also less of a pullback, just to be realistic about how to get the slingshot to work.
Which means there's more testing to do. They want to know whether doubling the length of the sling or doubling the number of slings doubles the distance that the projectile is launched. And if you double the weight of the projectile, do you have the distance? In other words, is the relationship linear?
Okay, I'm gonna put in the 2 kilo. 3, 2, 1.
That's 27.9. Next is a ½ kilo. I hit the wall.
104 feet.
This is a 1 kilo ball. Worst case scenario is that I get hit in the ghoulies by these strands. Oh! Oh, went into the other yard. 230 feet, I'd guess. That's what we call a home run.
Eventually, the slingshot testathon has run its course, and every combination of rubber and missile has been tried out.
65.
So, time for some serious number crunching to see if this myth could really fly.
Well, I think we've got some really good data so far. What has it told us?
Well, it told us that surgical rubber tubing is our best bet. It way outperformed the other rubber.
Yeah, and even though it's got such a much greater pullback length than the other things we tried, I don't think that's such a problem, because our data really shows that we get the same increase in throwing distance by doubling the number of bands as we do by doubling their length. So we don't need super long bands, we just need many more short ones.
Okay, so we're going to get a bunch of surgical rubber. What do you think? Are we ready to go full scale yet?
I'm not so sure we should go right to full scale. This is a lot of material we're talking about. I'd like to do one more interim test just to make sure all our figures are dialed in.
Yeah, this is a big deal. That'd be the safest thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before they commit themselves, they need to fill in some gaps in their knowledge of the properties of surgical rubber.
There's a few factors we still don't know about it. We don't know what its maximum pull strength is, its breaking strength, and we don't know how long that will be. So if we have a 10-foot length, we don't know whether it'll pull to 40, 60, 70 feet.
So they set up a strainometer, which involves a measuring strip, a scale, a forklift, and a 10-foot length of 1-inch surgical tubing.
Okay, you ready? 50 pounds.
Okay, he's at 40 feet.
We're at 70 pounds.
Okay, we're at 50 feet.
We're at 100 pounds.
Okay, now you're in the danger zone. Did you see what it was?
Looks like on this one we got to about 150 pounds.
The 10-foot length of rubber snapped at 60 feet, a ratio of 6 to 1.
It's pretty chunked up. I mean, it definitely spikes right there after a 5 to 1 pull.
Yeah.
That's like 5 to 1 is its maximum ability.
Which means 50 feet is the safe pullback limit for a 10-foot length of surgical rubber. Now, they need to know just one more crucial number.
Well, this might look like one of the lost scene stones from The Lord of the Rings. In fact, it's an 8-pound bowling ball, and this is part of our next scaling up of the border slingshot. When I'm done with this, it's going to weigh just about 8 kilos, which is roughly 1/10 of Buster's final weight.
And that will give them the magic figure they need. A successful bowling ball flight will let them scale up for the big one by a factor of 10.
What we're gonna do with this is we're gonna take it out to a unsuspecting football field, rig up our surgical tubing and our other stuff to the goal posts, turning them into an excessively large slingshot, and we're going to embed this probably in the next town.
First, Adam must increase the weight of the bowling ball.
What is this thing made of?
Here comes trouble.
It's the world's biggest basketball.
And that's the end of that experiment.
Well, there's your problem. I did something I didn't think was humanly possible. I broke a big chunk out of our bowling ball.
Is it still gonna fire?
Oh, it's still gonna fire. All it needs to be is round and heavy.
Well, also, you know.
Damaging your floors?
Adam lives and Adam learns.
I'm gonna continue the destruction of this thing.
Let's face it, it's what he does best.
Okay, that was easy. I'm okay. It's got a creamy nougat center.
He drills a hole and fills it with lead.
Perfect, 17.6.
In other words, 8 kilos. 10 death balls, and you've got yourself one buster. The myth of the border slingshot takes Adam and Jamie to the football fields of Encinal High.
Stop. Nicely done.
They're testing the myth that illegal immigrants are launching themselves into the U.S. by giant slingshot. But first, they want to cut things down to size by tossing a bowling ball exactly 1/10 of Buster's weight. The school's goalposts are a ready-made slingshot yoke.
Hey, Adam, I had kind of an idea. Since this is so flexible, what if we put some guy wires or guy ropes on it?
I think that's absolutely what we should do.
Like good MythBusters, they've brought enough rope to lasso a small country. Adam ties the guy wires off to a couple of cars, then measures out the firing range.
I'm marking out 50-foot increments of how far our target should go, and it's looking pretty unreasonable. I don't think we'll even get the bowling ball more than 150 feet, if that.
And by the time he reaches 450 feet, he's even less optimistic.
The myth is that these people slingshotting themselves over the border are traveling another 150 feet that way. 300 yards, that's 600 feet. Look what's out there. I don't think so.
3, 2, 1. To get an idea of just how far that is, here's human cannonball David Smith Jr. cannonballing 170 feet. It's a spectacular flight, but it's not even 1/3 of the distance claimed in the border slingshot myth. It's one heck of a long shot. Just to make sure that the goalposts can take the strain, they decide to kick things off with a lesser weight.
1-inch surgical tubing with the 2-kilo ball?
Yep.
10 feet on each side.
Yep. And 3, 2, 1.
Whoa!
The slingshot becomes a boomerang.
That was the scariest thing I've ever done on this show. That was terrifying.
Terror. It's hilarious. So what went wrong?
The hazards of giant slingshot making. Jamie added a little extra chain to his ball basket so we could hopefully keep the balls in and not have them fall out. And, well, that extra piece of chain seems to have held it in because that ball went up and then came right back down at us. Whew, that was scary.
One near-death experience per myth is about enough.
Oh, is this a recipe for disaster or what?
So they decide to relaunch with an automatic firing mechanism, complete with safety pin and remote triggering device.
Okay, so this is the 2-kilo ball with 10 feet of 1-inch surgical tubing. Second try.
3, 2, 1.
We have liftoff.
Damn.
I'll be darned, that went a lot farther than I thought it would.
Well,
I can see where it landed. 205 feet.
So what's next? Do we go up to the 4 kilo?
I think it's time to double up the bungee and go for the bowling ball.
So, 2 10-foot lengths of 1-inch surgical rubber tubing on each side and an 8-kilo death ball in the middle. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, we're about to launch an 8-kilogram bowling ball with the world's second biggest slingshot. The biggest hasn't been built yet. It is only in the mind of the MythBusters at this point.
Which is probably the safest place for it.
3, 2, 1. Oh! Hey, that was thrilling!
The bowling ball got snagged by the basket and only traveled 21 feet. For quick release, they weave a makeshift basket out of line.
Look at that, huh? Huh? What a masterpiece. We're working on table doilies next.
So, once more into the breach.
And 3, 2, 1. Whoa! That would be bad.
The boomerang's back, and this time it's taken out the goal can.
Shockingly, that didn't work. I can't imagine why.
The crew comes to the rescue with a camera bag that could have been custom-made for slingshotting. The goalposts, on the other hand, clearly weren't, and they're bent out of shape.
So everybody's clear here. Those things break, it's going right to where you are, okay?
Yeah.
So, camera guys, everybody, this is now a very precarious thing. It may not be a lot of force, but it's going to be moving really quickly if it goes.
With the slingshot on its last legs, can they get the launch they need to complete the testing?
All right. Ready in 3, 2, 1.
Well, Adam, I'd say that worked pretty well.
I think it did.
Right at the last, success.
Jamie, that's 77 feet.
For the first time, we're starting to get some activity with this projectile that is like what we'll expect to see with a full-sized Humid. We launched an 8-kilogram projectile around 70 feet or so, and that's about a tenth of a Humid. We need to be able to launch it farther than 70 feet, but at least we're starting to get into that world. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm getting kind of tired of all this test firing of these projectiles. I think we've crunched the numbers enough. It's time to build the real thing.
You know, from just a cost standpoint, let alone a physics standpoint, tossing him 200 yards, I think, is completely ridiculous. We're talking something like 12,000 pounds of pulling force to throw him that distance. I reckon we ought to shoot for the world record for a human cannonball, which is about 200 feet. By my math, that would give us about 40 bands of 1-inch surgical tubing, 10 feet long, 20 on each side, about a final pulling force of 4,000 pounds, which seems easily doable.
Okay, and so we don't have to build this massive structure that is a one-use only sort of a deal. I'd recommend that we go with radio towers, a truss structure that we can guy wire out.
Excellent, I think that's a great idea. Man, if we build this thing, this has to be the largest slingshot anybody has ever built.
The plan for the final rig is elegantly simple. 2 radio towers will form the V-shaped yoke. An array of guy wires will hold them in place. And the sling itself will comprise 40 10-foot lengths of 1-inch surgical tubing. Seems straightforward enough. Time to build the world's biggest slingshot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
First, the radio towers, which they've purchased for just $700, must be assembled. And there's some modifications to make to the business ends, where the slings will be attached.
The point of this exercise is to terminate our antenna strut so that it ends at a nice point on both ends. And this just concentrates the load that we put on this. I'm going to be hanging one of these snatch blocks right here, and I want to put the load evenly on all 3 of these bars. I don't want it to overload a single one of them.
Meanwhile, Jamie is busy building a man-sized firing sling.
I guess I'm about the same size as Buster, so this seems about right to me. We don't want to make it too small.
The whole contraption must be light, but extremely strong.
Unfortunately, humans are big, heavy things, usually. And so when you're using them as projectiles, it takes a lot of energy, and it's actually a heck of a lot of work.
Luckily, Jamie's strict recycling policy saves MythBusters a cool $5 in canvas.
Pretty bloody close. The canvas is mainly to keep these cords neat, because things tend to get tangled and hooked. So it's not going to be structural, we're just going to glue it on.
Meanwhile, Adam's fulfilling the fooling around clause in his contract.
That's like a Power Rangers villain. Oh, my guts fell out! Oh, my guts all fell out! Oh.
This is what you look like after sextuple bypass surgery.
I have nothing to say.
And with that out of his system, they tie up the build by attaching the lengths of surgical rubber to the sling. Tomorrow is the day of reckoning for these border-busting dummies. The MythBusters arrive at a waterside wasteland where they'll erect their giant slingshot and try to hurl a crash test dummy 200 yards over an imaginary border.
So how far is the 200-yard mark for over the border?
Well, you see those white posts that are way off in the distance there?
Yeah.
That is about 200 yards.
Wow. There's no way he's going to make it that far.
Well, we can try.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a magnificent thing.
They've spent 3 days testing with small-scale rigs, and they're backing a surgical rubber sling to give them their longest shot. The plan is to erect one Goliath of a yoke using 2 radio masts, each one anchored with 3 guy wires.
Ah, yeah. You know, Jamie gets all of his strength from experiments he did with gamma rays back in the 70s.
They've hired long-reach gradals to raise the masts, which are 45 feet long.
Just a little bit farther forward. Stop! That's pretty much exactly right. Out in the sun, making a big slingshot. Well, it's a hell of a thing.
That's way heck up there. I have a feeling that we weren't exaggerating when we said this will be the world's largest slingshot.
Now for the tricky bit, positioning the guy wires so that they support the mast without getting in the way of the slingshot's trajectory. They want to avoid a situation where the dummy is hurled into a guy wire, like this. So they opt for a configuration which they hope will hold up the towers, while leaving the area in the direction of fire guy wire free.
I think we're okay.
I think that's good.
The first 2 guy wires are made fast to a disused railway line. Only when the 3rd is secured will they know if they've got their angles right.
I'm gonna go ahead and back the forklift out.
Okay. This is the moment of truth. This is where we learned that we screwed everything up.
Adam tensions up the 3rd guy wire. Cue moment of truth.
Oh. We f***ed up.
Yeah.
The guy wires are not forming a wide enough triangle, so instead of supporting the tower, they're pulling it over.
I just lost all my joie de vivre.
The only solution is to cross the 2 guy wires in front of the slingshot. They hope that Buster will fly over the wires and over the border, but there's no guarantee of either.
It's kind of risky, though, because if Buster doesn't go as far or as fast as we think he's going to go, he's going to land on the guy wires, and this whole rig could take a tumble.
It's not a perfect solution, but it's the only one they've got. So they reposition the forward guy wires and check their angles.
I think it's beautiful. I think the cross is nice and far away. The point under the cable is still about 25 feet. We're going to fly at least 25 feet.
Okay, let's do the other one, huh?
All right.
The first tower was the tricky one. Now they've got a system in place. They nail the second one with no trouble at all.
That's it.
All right then, last cable.
The last cable is tensioned up, And there's the giant Y of the world's biggest slingshot yoke.
Wow.
Now that it's up, the scale of the border slingshot myth starts to hit home.
A structure like this is not a very mobile structure. This is not something you could pull up with on a flatbed, launch someone, and then be gone before the Border Patrol could catch you.
Even if the border guards somehow failed to notice a major piece of construction taking place on their watch, and the immigrants flying overhead, there's still the issue of the landing on the other side.
We may make our best guess as to where this mattress might go, and I guarantee you we're gonna miss it.
The guys swing the sling into place and admire their handiwork.
I think what we've got here is a thing.
Looks like a big-ass slingshot to me.
There's just one more problem to solve.
We'll have to think a little bit about how Buster's going to get held in here.
Oh, how to hold him in there.
To keep him falling down that way.
Right.
It's something to think about.
It's got to let him go.
I know, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, man. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
They'll work out how to seat Buster tomorrow when they attempt the horizontal bungee across the border. It's been a long day, so what's the verdict?
This is full on. You know, this thing with the radio towers and everything like that. I don't think anybody else has ever done anything quite like this. Buster's going for a pretty exciting ride tomorrow, I think.
Well, I gotta establish that this is Canada, so I'm gonna throw a Canadian flag up here.
It's 7 a.m. on the day of the big launch, and the build team arrives to stake out an imaginary U.S.-Canadian border.
Oh, yeah, this'll keep them out.
We're at 200 feet, 250.
According to the myth, giant slingshots are hurling illegal immigrants 200 yards across the border and into the United States.
That's 200 yards. About as wide as the border.
200 yards, that's pretty far. I doubt it's gonna make it.
I think that's pretty far to be slinging a human being. 200 yards to get over the border? I think this myth might be slightly absurd. But you know those Canadians, they're kind of crafty.
But are they crafty enough to fly 200 yards and land on a mattress?
Oot!
It's one heck of a long shot, eh?
Run, run! You're oot! You're oot!
Adam and Jamie spent a day erecting their giant border-busting slingshot. And they're also doubtful about the myth.
Just, like, throw a blanket over the razor wire or whatever and go for it, you know? This is gonna kill you, mattress or not.
The consensus is that the border is beyond reach, dead or alive. So the MythBusters have lowered the bar for today's launch.
All right, what we got here is the mark for the world record of human cannonball. I don't think we're even gonna come close to this mark. My feeling is that it probably won't even reach to the first tie down of the slingshot.
The world record target is 201 feet, set in 2002 by David Smith Sr. Tori's not holding his breath.
The last time we tried to fire Buster on a ballistic trajectory was with the boom lift catapult. And, you know, we thought we were gonna get like 200 feet. We didn't even come close. I think it went like 30 feet.
3, 2, 1.
In fact, the boom lift catapult tossed him a respectable 90 feet, if you include the 60 feet of boom. In Raccoon Rocket, 10 pounds of black powder blasted him 80 feet.
Oh my God!
And in the myth of the Ming Dynasty astronaut, well, he just got burned to a cinder. Come to think of it, Buster could do with a launch break. Maybe it's time to give a relative rookie a go.
She's a little worse for wear.
When it comes to handling children, Jamie's old school. The kid only weighs 55 pounds, so if she doesn't launch, the myth is totally busted.
Well, I figure if we start off with the kid, and we'll be more ensured that we're going to get trajectory, and we can work our way up to Buster.
If she does, she's going to be flying backwards.
Bye.
Adam shimmies up one of the towers to install a camera for a bird's eye view of liftoff. And with that, everything is ready. For safety reasons, the dummy will stay stationary while the surgical rubber is stretched upwards towards the top of the towers using gradles. For full power, the sling must have 4,000 pounds of tension, a stretch of up to 50 feet. Any further, and the rubber could snap, with painful results.
Okay, you drivers are going to have to know to control yourself to keep it balanced. If you see it start to shift, compensate. All right, is that clear?
Brant and Tori are the pullback pilots.
All right, I'm pulling the safety pin.
The days of testing and building are over. This is it.
I feel pretty good. That's Jamie's final okay. So as soon as we get the producers okay, we're ready to launch this kid. I can't wait. I think she's going to fly a fair distance, or she's going to go straight out and come straight back. We've seen a lot of that in this experimentation.
Okay, everybody's in position. Gradles, go ahead and start tensioning, over.
The tension mounts towards the 4,000-pound mark.
Okay, you guys are good.
At release, the dummy will pull between 6 and 9 Gs, about as much as a space shuttle astronaut.
Wow.
Let Tori catch up a little bit more, Grant.
Then, disaster strikes.
Oh! Stop. All stop.
Houston, we have a problem. A guy wire has slipped, but Jamie makes a quick appraisal and decides not to abort.
I'm going to suggest that we fire it at this point.
I am firing in 3, 2, 1.
Blast off.
What happened? What was our shift?
While Adam and Jamie investigate the problem, Carrie's been measuring the throw.
Jamie,
Yes.
do you remember my prediction for how far she would fly?
It was 132 feet.
Guess how far she flew?
133 feet.
132 feet.
Ah, well, good guess.
Nicely done.
You're the winner.
Not bad with a broken yoke, but far from perfect. So, how's the kid?
Here, let me give you a hand. That doesn't really look like a survivable kind of flight to me.
And the verdict?
I would call that a failed launch. The dummy held on to the basket and ended up basically spinning end over end and landing right here. However, this is 132 feet. It's very respectable as far as human propulsion and distance go.
The kid's a goner. But how about the slingshot?
I think we can fix the rig. We've got to retension this main cable that seemed to have stretched a bit, and we should be good to fire again not too long from now.
They retension the loose cable and decide to take out some additional insurance.
I am adding a pair of guy wires to these towers just to add an extra level of support. I've got a shackle, and that's all I need.
Let's hope he has a head for heights.
Here we go.
Oh, he makes me nervous when he does this.
Hey, it's a nice view up here. I'm ready up here, Tor.
Adam attaches the cables to the tower. Then they're tensioned up and fastened down. Meanwhile, Carrie and Grant prepare Susie, the crash test dummy, for launch.
I mean, clearly she's not had enough yoga.
They're working on the theory that she'll fly further in the fetal position.
How's that look?
Painful, but that is a ball.
They pre-tension the sling into the loading position, then place the 130-pound Susie aboard.
Oh, yeah.
She's in!
She's in! That's it.
If you've ever flown economy, you know just how Susie's feeling. But it's all systems go for a second shot at the world record.
Okay, I'm pulling the pin. Guys, go ahead and start up.
The gradles slowly stretch up the surgical rubber.
Looking good. Adam, get ready to fire. Go ahead.
Roger that.
Okay, I recommend to fire. Go, Adam.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
As Jamie would say, whoops.
Well, that was a familiar result.
So what went wrong this time?
What happened is the same thing that happened with our bowling ball. The sling is actually rotating around, holding on to the dummy and slinging him back. How we solved that, I'm not exactly sure. We put almost absolute full tension on the rig this last run, and the dummy looked like she was going pretty awful fast. I think if we can manage to release her properly, we'll see what this rig is capable of.
Adam thinks that taking up some of the seat's slack might help to release the dummy.
I think you could almost tie a knot around that. Just give it a
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They also try seating her sideways.
Yeah, I see what you're doing, Tori, and I like that.
Okay, so everybody's in position. Go ahead and tension.
Will it be 3 times a charm?
Okay, Tori, you've got to just a few feet. That was the blue rope that broke.
Susie's having the fight from hell. The blue rope that was attached to Tori's grade all snapped before the sling even reached maximum tension.
Well, it looks like our rig kind of broke. One of our blue ropes that we were tensioning the rig with, we're checking on the breaking strength right now. It broke. So apparently we exceeded its breaking strength.
The day is wearing on, and the MythBusters family of would-be immigrants are still stuck on Canadian soil.
I'm not sure we were ever making our way the full 200 yards into the United States, but really, we can't finish this day without some kind of launch.
Down but never out, the MythBusters get going on another round of repairs.
In and out, nobody gets hurt.
Susie takes her seat for her 3rd ride.
In about 5 minutes, I want to be going, woo!
Seconds out, round 3.
Okay, go ahead and start to tension.
Tension's the word. Another failure now, and this myth's in trouble.
Adam, I want you to do the count quick once we get into position, over. Okay, stop Grant. Fire at will.
I am firing in 3, 2, 1.
We still didn't really get a good launch. At least it wasn't a, throwback.
The high-speed camera shows that Susie slipped out of her sling, so she didn't receive all the available thrust.
128 feet. I'm afraid she's still a Canadian.
Border crossing, that's what it's all about.
Time is running out for the MythBusters. Engineering problems have beset their super-sized slingshot. And the U.S. border remains unbreached. There's only enough daylight left for one final launch. Buster's understudy, Rescue Randy, takes the hot seat.
Okay, oops.
He's going to be shooting for the world human cannonball record of 201 feet. Jamie's made a last-minute adjustment to the sling arrangement. Adam's impressed.
Lift off! Jamie, it looks a lot more diabolical now. I don't know, you might have done it.
Not one to be left out, Adam makes his own modification to the launch seat so that the dummy sits higher up.
This is center of bounce was about here. I want it to be here. That was that string, this is that string.
It looks high, Adam.
I know it looks high, but he was real low last time. This is a classic MythBusters scenario. We're just about to do the end thing. You've made a modification and I'll have made a modification, and we'll both want to take credit if it works. I've seen it before.
You can take credit, Adam.
Oh, he's sucked me in the jaw.
There you go. The center of balance is pretty much dead in the middle.
Okay.
I think this one's gonna go. I do.
How far?
220 feet.
220?
The light is fading fast. They hurriedly pre-tension the sling and make a final pre-flight inspection.
I think it looks pretty good.
Let's pull the pin and do it. Pin is out. Release cable is clear.
Okay, go ahead and tension.
I want this to work.
Grant and Tori slowly advance towards the edge of the dock. To get the 165-pound dummy past the world record marker, they'll need every inch of the 40-foot stretch.
Hey, Grant, stop. Tori, keep going.
When the sling is at maximum tension, 4,000 pounds of pressure is ready to be unleashed.
Okay, stop. Fire at will.
3, 2, 1.
Blast off. Now that's a throw.
Woo! Did we get him to the border? He passed the... Wow! He passed the 200-foot mark! Yeah! That's a record! It's gonna work.
Nice.
Miraculously, the dummy is still in one piece.
You're not gonna get the mattress, that's for freaking sure.
Look back at...
I know.
I mean, that's a hell of a flight.
My money says he would have gone over if we had more time to balance it. Because it's not far
He
away.
would have gone over the fence, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would reckon that he would have easily made it over the fence because we lost so much energy to this.
Yeah.
The high-speed camera shows that Buster's stunt double still slipped out of the sling, causing him to rotate. But it was still quite a flight.
You broke the world record for cannonball.
What is it? What was our distance?
Your distance at the first landing was 211 feet.
Huh?
Well,
nicely done.
I'd say that's a good job. That's all we can do today.
Let's pack up and go home. I'm tired.
They flung their final fling. It's been a myth-busting marathon, which started like this and ended like this. A world record for a dummy at least. Not a bad consolation prize, but the myth of the border slingshot is busted.
You know, that was a lot of fun to try, but I think you and I were both pretty clear from the get-go that the whole idea of a traveling rig that throws immigrants 200 yards onto a mattress was ludicrous.
Yeah, but from an engineering standpoint, we did prove that it would be possible, and I think that we could have done it if we had another week or so to nut it out.
Yeah, it might have been possible, but look at the spirit of the myth. To throw them 200 yards would be a much bigger thing than we built, and ours is in no way portable. And Randy was going 56 miles per hour when we threw him 200 feet. If we threw him 200 yards, he'd be going close to 100 miles an hour. And everything we've done with Buster says that's not a survivable fall, no matter what kind of mattress you've got.
You just need more of them, maybe like 200.
No way. This thing is completely and totally busted. We did it.
Yeah, well, okay, it's busted.
On this episode of MythBusters, a blast from the past. As Adam and Jamie hit the history books.
There will be a lot of fire, and I could get burned.
To explore an explosive myth from the Civil War. Wow! Did the Confederate Army build the world's first long-range missile?
In 3, 2, 1.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage and Jamie Heineman.
This is gonna kill you.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
That's what I'm talking about.
They don't just tell the myths, They put them to the test.
This one, I've been waiting for 3 whole years to make this one finally happen on the show.
It's got danger, gunpowder, so I'm all for it.
All right, so the myth is that late in the Civil War, the Confederate Army actually built, aimed, and launched a 2-stage rocket from Richmond, Virginia to Washington, D.C., almost 100 miles. Observers claim to have watched this rocket roar skyward, drop its first stage, and disappear from sight. Oh, yes.
It's a myth of ballistic proportions. The American Civil War was mostly slugged out with rifles and cannons. But did the Confederates have a secret weapon? Could they really have built the world's first long-range missile? The MythBusters and the build team are going to join forces to find out.
So where should we start with this?
Well, I think we can only begin with an examination of exactly what the state-of-the-art of rocketry was, if any, at the time this myth is supposed to have happened, roughly 1865.
So what you're getting at is that we need to get a bunch of plans for these rockets, build them, and see how well they actually worked.
Shoot them off, see what they're capable of.
Okay.
First, before attempting to make the mythical 100-mile missile, the MythBusters are building short-range rockets that were used in the Civil War. When complete, they'll launch them to learn whether the long-range Confederate rocket is even plausible. But so far, this build isn't exactly a walk in the park.
1/6. So 1/6 larger, that's...
With plans dating back over a century, this one is proving to be a bit of a brain drain.
2.3...
Until finally, Jamie gets some inspiration.
I'm building a replica of what is known as the Hale rocket, and that type of rocket is generally acknowledged as the state-of-the-art in the Civil War era.
State-of-the-art because over its 2,000-yard range, it had a hint of accuracy, brought about by tail fins that caused it to spiral through the air. Armed with dusty plans from the Smithsonian, Jamie sets his sights high. But in case Hale falls flat, Adam's building another retro rocket. And his, like the myth, is a 2-stager.
The Boxer rocket is actually a rescue rocket. It was made to fire from one boat to another or from the shore to a boat in need of rescue, carrying a line so that that boat could be pulled to safety.
The Boxer rocket's initial thrust came from the first stage. As that burnt out, it fell away, and the second stage fired up and carried the rope over 300 feet to the sinking ship. But for Adam, it's not all plain sailing, because no one seems to have built one for over 100 years.
I have no idea if this is going to work.
While the Boxer makes progress, the Hale is out for the count, because Jamie's made an error of schoolboy proportions. And to avoid public humiliation,
You know, if I don't talk, you don't get any good TV.
He's run away from the cameraman.
What happened?
Nothing.
Denial is a river in Africa.
Come on. What happened? Did you accidentally weld the thing into the end of your pipe that was supposed to be a screw fitting?
Overzealous welding has sealed his rocket shut, and he's not happy.
We had about like a couple of hours of playing around with the thing, and that's not interesting, but somehow when we screw up, everybody's all over it.
While a sulking Jamie has to start from scratch, Tori's busy building the Civil War rocket launcher.
It's a pretty simple design. It's just a channel that we're going to load the rockets into, and it's got two legs that support it in the front, and it also allows the angle to change. They're adjustable, so we can have different, angles of trajectory.
Time for a test, albeit with a flimsy firework.
I'm not really sure what this one's going to do. It might scream, it might explode, but okay. You know what, the rocket followed the channel perfectly and it sent it in the right angle. I just hope it's sturdy enough for the big rockets.
I know, that's gonna be a lot of thrust.
I got some more rockets, so maybe we should light off a couple more.
Yeah, like a couple at once.
Yeah.
While Pyro Tory gets his kicks, Adams made a find that changes the Boxer and maybe the mythical rocket too.
Upon doing some more research, it turns out that nobody's ever seen one of these rockets. No one's seen one in a long time. No one's got one. No one builds them. So there has been some confusion as to whether or not it was a true two-stage rocket or a compound rocket. And it turns out that it's a compound rocket. And indeed, it does not separate in the middle halfway through its ignition.
So the Boxer is not a true two-stage rocket. The sections don't split, they simply burn through each other. The idea that the mythical Confederate rocket was a two-stage must now be in doubt. As Adam puts the finishing touches to the Boxer, Jamie's come out of his corner fighting and is already attaching those revolutionary tail fins that spun the Hale rocket for accuracy.
There was a price to pay to make these spin. Even with this clever design, it actually reduced the total range of the rocket.
Range doesn't mean crap if it can't be accurate.
Yeah.
I'll take accuracy over range any day.
And that's the same conclusion as Mr. Hale drew.
I'm fairly happy with this. It, you know, it's not a polished, shiny thing, but it looks like it means business.
At last, the rockets are ready. They just need the gunpowder fuel.
There we run into kind of a problem. I mean, first of all, it's illegal for you and I to pack black powder ourselves. But secondly, the pressures they packed these rockets under was really just monstrous, and that makes it even more dangerous.
Sounds like we need to get our old buddy Eric Gates.
Yeah, I think we should call Eric, and I think rather than go with black powder, we should ask Eric to supply us with some modern equivalent motors that replicate the amount of thrust and burn time of these Civil War era rockets.
Civil War rockets, but modern fuel. And for the imminent launch, the team head for the hills. The MythBusters have built rockets that date back to the Civil War. They're going to launch them in the desert to help them learn how to build the mythical Confederate rocket, rumored to have a range of 120 miles.
We're here in the Mojave Desert at the Cohen Dry Lake Bed near Edwards Air Force Base, and we're about to test the authentically recreated Civil War era rockets.
Authentically recreated, but because of state laws, contemporarily fueled, thanks to the rocket expertise of their honorary MythBuster, Eric Gates.
When the countdown goes, these rocket motors are going to burn for 4.
Eric has already helped show that an ancient Chinese entrepreneur failed to get into orbit. And can you do a full 360 on a swing? Well, only if you've got someone like Eric there to help. Today, the cool of the van has become Civil War mission control.
I got something to show you guys. This right here is my Boxer rocket.
Adam's as proud as a new father. And like a new baby, the rocket first gets weighed.
All right, so 8.4 pounds for this thing.
And measured.
Diameter of the rocket is 3 inches.
This data is then fed into a computer simulation to see whether the rocket stands a chance of flying.
Okay, I've put a little set of fins on here to simulate the stick, and it looks like it's going to be stable. Let's try a motor.
Let's put a K550 in it to start out.
K550 it is.
The computer's fully primed.
Go.
Flight path, perfect. Range, 20,000 feet.
Remember, these are really rough simulations because your nozzle is not the same as what comes with the motor. So these could be greatly off, but hopefully they're going to be fairly accurate predictions.
Jamie's 20-pound rocket is historically more reliable than Adam's. So what does the accurate computer make of it?
See, right now it's doing about 500 feet and about 50 feet up, 60 feet up.
That's not quite the spinning that the Hale rocket was famed for. As launch looms, the rockets are ready to be fueled up with ammonium perchlorate motors. These modern motors are the most advanced in amateur rocketry and may be a little more powerful than Civil War black powder. But as they wrap them to ensure a snug fit in the rockets, Adam and Jamie are wondering if the main myth has historical authenticity, or is it just another tall tale?
Well, you know, now you can find references to the Civil War rocket all over the web, and they're saying that the rocket was about 12 feet long and it carried a 10-pound gunpowder warhead.
Well, the tale first showed up in 1958 in a Southern newspaper written by a Vienna correspondent signing only as C.R. Johnson.
Well, our researchers were unable to find C.R. Johnson or the article.
The myth may be nothing more than a mirage. But in this desert, it's T-minus 60 seconds for the Hale rocket.
We built this according to official plans and specs of the period, and if it worked then, it ought to work now.
What does our percentage maestro think?
70% chance the thing spins out, ends up about 200 feet away. 29% chance that it actually flies totally successfully and ends up 3,000 feet away. There's a 1% chance that it hits the ground and bounces right over to us.
And with those words of wisdom, it's the bit now with the countdown.
3, 2, 1, go.
She's up and away.
Congratulations, James.
Wow. Nicely done, brother.
I was afraid that it was going to loop, but then it just got the spin. When the spin's what keeps it going straight. That was great.
Those revolutionary Hale tail fins did the trick and kept the rocket on a computer-defying perfect arc.
See it actually go and work, especially kind of having you on the edge of your seat as you're watching it go, and then it just kind of homes in and does its job. It was cool. It's cool design.
One down, one to go.
I got a boxer rocket, and I'm gonna fire it.
Complete with its rescue rope.
You're ready to rock and roll.
Is that it?
That's it.
Is that it?
That is it. Next, you push the button.
Let's light some rockets! In 3, 2, 1.
Whoa! We have liftoff.
You guys all clear?
That is cool.
It looks like they knew what they were doing back there in the 1800s.
They might have known what they were doing.
Yeah, look good.
Ain't that the truth? Another near-perfect flight. The rescue rope didn't fare so well, but at least the drowning sailors would have had a spectacle to behold. Adam and Jamie's next task is to build the long-range rocket of the myth. So first, they'll need to find out how far their non-mythical missiles flew.
I don't know, but I think that's one of the rockets, and judging by the size of the hole, I think it's mine. I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can feel the end of it. Oh, I'm still not touching anything.
Oh, backhoe time.
Like a miner in the gold rush, Jamie starts digging. And the lighter boxer rocket? Well, 500 yards further on.
That's where it landed. I'm just terrible at judging distance from here, but I'd say it's at least 1.5 miles. I'm gonna pace it out. Calculating each of my steps is about 1 yard, and we'll see where I get to.
As Adam measures his flight path, Jamie has at last struck gold.
There she is. We got the end clearly exposed, and I think we should be able to tug it out with it come along pretty well. So
the heavy hail flew half as far and went over 5 feet into the ground. Soft to crash land in, tiring to measure.
1,317 yards. I'm tired.
The MythBusters have successfully launched rockets that haven't been seen for 80 years. But now, they've got to use what they learned to build the mythical 100-mile range Confederate rocket.
Well, now we have a pretty good idea of what the standard kind of rocket that was used in the Civil War era is capable of. And I got to say, we've got our work cut out for us as far as this mythical rocket, because there's just not a whole lot of information about what it was.
Well, you know, we start with what we've got. I mean, they say it was a liquid-fueled rocket, so we should talk to somebody about what kind of technologies that would make a liquid-fueled rocket they had available at the time.
Liquid fuel? Well, that is what NASA uses. Of course, they had their teething problems too. But surely this technology is light years ahead of the Confederates. If only we had a rocket scientist.
Hello. How you doing, guys?
Nice to meet you.
So you're like a rocket scientist, right?
Yeah, exactly. I teach the rocket propulsion class at San Diego State, and I launch my own rockets.
Does being a rocket scientist help you pick up chicks?
Unfortunately, in the rocket science world, there's not that many women, and they're hunted to extinction.
Hunted to extinction. So, have you heard this myth that the Confederate Army actually built a liquid-fueled rocket that they fired from Virginia to Washington, D.C.?
It was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. People were doing all kinds of crazy things with steam engines and steamboats. I suppose it's possible.
What's not possible is to understand the ensuing discussion. But eventually they thrashed out the characteristics of a plausible Civil War-era two-stage rocket, powered by ethanol and liquid oxygen. And they unearthed some interesting new data.
This myth was supposedly made possible by Lord Kelvin, who was persuaded to make liquid oxygen 12 years before it is generally accepted that this first occurred.
Apparently, German physicist Ernst Mach contributed a small turbine and a gyroscopic stabilizer.
The rocket was launched from a hole in a riverbank that was lined with a tube made from naval cannons.
So here are the likely ingredients. Lord Kelvin's liquid oxygen made the rocket fuel burn. Ernst Mach's gyros gave it stability. A cannon provided the trajectory. And gun cotton made it explode out of the barrel. But what was the fuel? It could have been ethanol, made since ancient times by fermenting sugar. And it is used as a fuel. In today's environmentally conscious age, clean-burning ethanol is widely used as an additive to reduce gasoline emissions. Clean and green was not the aim of the Nazis when they invented their ethanol-fueled V-2 rockets. It was an oil shortage that drove their search for an alcohol-based rocket fuel. Nonetheless, the V-2 suggests that moonshine could have been used in the Confederate rocket. Next, it's Lord Kelvin's Big O. Liquid oxygen is needed as the fuel oxidizer. Without it, the ethanol will burn only gently. But when it's added, the fuel is fully oxidized and virtually explodes, causing a massive amount of thrust. And it's down to Grant to make it.
Well, I'm going to replicate Joseph Priestley's landmark experiment of the late 1700s, where he actually discovered oxygen using mercuric oxide, liquid mercury, a magnifying glass, and the sun.
Before making liquid oxygen, he first has to produce oxygen gas by focusing the heat of the sun onto mercuric oxide.
Now for the sun.
As it heats up, oxygen gas should bubble up into the test tube.
Hey, it's bubbling. Tiny, but still bubbling.
It's working, but he's going to be here a while longer yet. And when he's got enough, like Lord Kelvin, Grant's got to liquefy it. Meanwhile, because the mythical rocket was fired from a naval cannon, Carrie's gone to the fort.
So Jamie and Adam need to know what size the cannons were during the Civil War. So I've come here to Fort Point to do some measuring of cannons and find out.
These measurements are key to the MythBusters missile because there's no written record of the dimensions of the Confederate rocket.
All right, that's 11-foot length.
Adam and Jamie do know that it was fired from a cannon. So if Carrie measures the biggest cannons from the Civil War,
10 inches?
Then the MythBusters can build the biggest rocket possible. And they'll also have a launch tube they can replicate.
9 foot 2 inches.
It's another ingredient ready. Launch tube cannon, check. But the MythBusters have made a worrying discovery about Lord Kelvin.
Well, Adam, as the myth suggests, William Thompson, aka Lord Kelvin, did in fact live during the Civil War era, but he never claimed to have made liquid oxygen.
And we're supposed to believe someone whose name was Thompson but went around saying he was Lord Kelvin? That's Lord Kelvin to you?
Yeah.
But in 1852, he did observe that gas expanding in a vacuum decreased in temperature.
And that discovery, in turn, made it possible in 1877 for two French scientists, Piquet and Calitet, I believe it was, to, in fact, achieve making liquid oxygen.
Yeah, but their success was only making the tiniest little vapor of liquid oxygen for just a few seconds. Industrial quantities were not remotely available until the 1890s, and really until the 1900s.
Well, that explains why Grant's been struggling so. Using Civil War technology, he's been trying to put his oxygen gas under so much pressure that it turns into liquid.
That doesn't sound like 80 PSI.
But whatever he tries, just ain't working.
I got a problem with this here cylinder.
And that's because M5, like the Civil War times, is just too warm.
As it turns out, is actually a critical temperature above which you can't liquefy oxygen. It just simply won't happen. That temperature is minus 118.6 degrees Celsius. And unfortunately, in Civil War times, they didn't possess the technology to make anything nearly that cold.
And without the liquid oxygen, the Confederate rocket myth is looking busted. In the American Civil War, did the Confederate Army fire a long-range missile? The MythBusters are trying to find out. But Grant has just failed to make a vital rocket ingredient.
Well, you know, Grant's results make it pretty clear that they just did not have the ability to liquefy oxygen during the Civil War, which for us rules out the possibility of a liquid-fueled rocket that uses liquid fuel and a liquid oxidizer. I don't really know where we go from here.
Well, I do. And, you know, I've been doing some reading on this. I think the design we should use is called a hybrid. The fuel is wax. The oxidizer that we would use would be nitrous oxide. The design doesn't involve any really complicated moving parts or anything.
Number one, all those materials sound really safe to work with. And number two, the technology for all of them was available during the Civil War. That sounds like a perfect solution.
So it's Plan B, a hybrid Confederate rocket. Lord Kelvin's liquid oxygen replaced with liquid nitrous oxide, and the ethanol fuel by solid paraffin wax. It's the last chance for this myth. And it all depends on whether making liquid nitrous oxide using Civil War technology is even possible. So Grant gets another bite at the cherry, but this time, in an extreme case of please don't try this at home, the recipe has been censored.
The plan here is to heat up with that will actually produce a gas. We're going to run those through and at the other end should come out nitrous oxide.
So Grant adds some moo with some meow and starts heating. With the temperature creeping higher, the gas starts to bubble out. And Adam can't resist having a sniff.
We're almost.
That burns!
As Adam recovers, more gas bubbles through. But is it nitrous oxide? Or, to use its common name, laughing gas?
Nitrous oxide is more plausible as an oxidizer. Nitrous oxide is more... Okay. Nitrous oxide is more...
They've clearly made laughing gas. But what is he trying to say?
Nitrous oxide is more plausible as an oxidizer during the Civil War than oxygen because the pressure that you need is a lot less. You're looking at 50 atmospheres for nitrous oxide versus 400 for oxygen.
So nitrous oxide needs less pressure to be liquefied, and better still, it can be done at room temperature. A time-saving, shop-bought bottle later, and the Confederate hybrid rocket can really happen. But with one final alteration. Adams' Boxer rocket, like that of the Myth, was described as a two-stager. But further research proved otherwise.
And it turns out that it's a compound rocket, and indeed, it does not separate in the middle halfway through its ignition.
Given that the launch was so successful, they're going to make their mythical rocket a one-stager as well. The final design is set. The rocket will be the size of the biggest cannon carry found at the fort. At the top, there'll be a tank full of liquid nitrous oxide joined via a release valve to a tank filled with paraffin wax. Upon ignition, the burning gases will burst out through a graphite nozzle. So, first things first, Jamie goes 21st century shopping for some 19th century parts. He's looking for some metal piping that Civil War rocketeers might have found at their local suppliers. They're going to make their best effort and then test it in the shop before trying to make it fly in the desert.
I'm making the nitrous oxide tank for the rocket. We're using common steel plumbing pipe and fittings because that's easy and quick for us, and it's not too dissimilar from what they might have had at the time.
Meanwhile, Adam's cooking up the new fuel, the paraffin wax with carbon added for an even burn. After it solidifies, it should fit perfectly inside the rocket.
No leaking.
As the testing draws nearer, for safety, the team need a rocket-resistant bunker, also known as a shipping container.
Okay, we're in.
Perfect.
Perfect parking, but how bomb-proof is the bunker?
There we go. Woo! Uh-oh.
Not very.
A lot of daylight coming through the roof.
They've bought a holy rust bucket.
Who cut the budget on the bunker? Like, this seems like something you'd spend the extra cash on.
Yeah, when you got lives at stake.
Is that a wasp nest?
Yeah.
Sweet.
To top it off, there's wasps. But not for long.
Oh, shoot, that was cool. Set a bomb off in there, the whole roof might go up. So I gotta redo the roof. I still gotta get the ventilation in. I gotta get the cinder blocks in. I gotta sweep this thing out. I mean, thing's a mess. But hey, we're gonna have a bunker.
As Tori slowly makes it blast-proof, the MythBusters have dug up some more mythical musings.
What factoids do you have for us today, Jamie?
The myth specifically states that the launch took place near Richmond in March of 1865 and was witnessed by Jefferson Davis, who was the president of the Confederate States of America.
Now, there is an element of truth to this story. Jefferson Davis was, in fact, in Richmond around March of 1865.
Well, the problem is that there is actually a very good record of every day of Jefferson Davis's activity during the month of March, and there is no mention whatever of any kind of a two-stage rocket.
But maybe it was a secret launch.
Well, there's always that.
It's no secret that Tori's bunker is becoming ever more beefed up. And as launch nears, Adam's rocket fuel is all set.
All right, well, the wax is cured overnight. Let's see what it did. Oh, yeah!
It's worked perfectly.
Yeah, I'm proud.
And will it fit? Of course. But there's no rest for the wicked. Jamie gets on with sealing the rocket, but is slightly alarmed at how simple it all seems to be.
it doesn't make any sense that it should be this easy. This is some laughing gas and some plumbing fixtures. And if it actually goes someplace, that's kind of scary.
The MythBusters are not used to things being so painless. But let's not forget, it's not even past its test yet.
Well, there she is. Tank's sealed. We have the ignition valve in place. We have the combustion chamber.
They're just waiting for the graphite nozzle. Graphite was the only thing available during the Civil War that could handle the crazy heat that the rocket's combustion generates.
Oh, that's a rocket. Oh, I'm totally psyched about that.
She's fully primed. With countdown just around the corner, it's time to take her to the bunker. The MythBusters are preparing to batten down the hatches in preparation for a big boom test. They've built their own Confederate rocket out of Civil War-era technologies. And because the desert is a long way to drive to find out the motor doesn't work, they're about to try it in a bunker in their shop. For safety, Adam secures the rocket so it will burn but not launch. And Jamie sets up some ventilation in case it's more of a smoke bomb. With everything ready, they're on to the final checks, starting with the quick release, the valve that will open the nitrous oxide to the fuel.
Okay, go ahead and pull. Cool.
Check. Next test is the ignition.
All right, Jamie, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1.
Smoking smells like, there we go.
Check.
Yeah, that took a second.
It's time to vacate the bunker because the Confederate rocket is going to get fired. They're going to fill the top half of the rocket with liquid nitrous oxide, ignite the wax, and then open the quick release valve.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
The nitrous oxide tank should be filling up, but no one is quite sure whether it's working.
I saw something drip.
It's dripping out of the quick release.
Oh, okay.
So that's actually a good sign.
Okay, well, let's kind of stand away from there, guys.
We're getting liquid nitrous oxide. Woo!
But 15 minutes later, and the tank is still filling up.
Yeah, this is where the danger zone happens. When nothing happens for a while, everyone's like, well, let's get closer. Let's get closer. Let's get closer. Boom! And everyone's dead.
Do you want to just go for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
They're just going to go for it. But for safety reasons, Jamie must first disconnect the nitrous oxide filler tank.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I knew I was going to do that.
Next time you should say that there might be a large kaboosh. Because, like, my heart's beating like 500 times a minute right now.
Those with a weak heart or a nervous disposition should look away now, because it's test time.
Okay, I'm in place, Adam.
Fire in the hole. So 3, 2, fans, go.
We clearly have ignition, but what the hell's going on in there? Not so much fire in the hole as fire in the whole shop. The MythBusters fire team have their work cut out. And what on earth must the neighbors think? There's more smoke than a year's worth of cigars. With the fire under control, the team decide to evacuate in case the gas is toxic.
Hey, that worked! I called 3, 2, fans, go. I pushed the igniter, Jamie pulled the fuel release, and I heard the thing catch. I heard it go, choo, go, woo, woo. I mean, just like exactly the way all the footage we've seen of liquid-fueled rockets going should sound. It put out a diabolical fireball outside the thing. It looks like it melted the ballistic glass. I mean, I can't wait to actually see the kind of damage it did in there.
As the smoke begins to clear, the damage is getting easier to see. Their hybrid rocket has turned M5 into a scene of apocalyptic proportions.
It's a testament to the size of the fireball and the heat that came out, what happened to my hovercraft.
If it did that to the hovercraft, what was going on inside the bunker? Well, the heat was so great that the cameras only filmed a giant fireball. Until, that is, they melted.
You know, I don't mind saying that I'm suffering the sin of pride here just a little bit. I mean, no one can dispute that through our ingenuity, we have achieved a hybrid rocket in 2 days with just a bunch of plumbing parts.
You mean we've achieved a hybrid rocket engine and system. We still have yet to put it in a sleek rocket-like exterior and build the cannon to fire it out of.
Exactly, and there's also the problem of tackling this mythical gyroscopic stabilizing system that the myth states. So I'll tackle the gyroscopic stabilizer. You want to take on the body and the nose cone?
Okay.
After some celebratory ego massaging, the down-to-earth work continues. For the final refinements, Adam's making the stabilizing system that gives the rocket a smooth and accurate flight path. But steam-powered, this ain't.
We looked at a lot of different ways to add gyroscopic stabilization to this thing, and we settled on the design that Hale used when he designed the Hale rocket, which was fins that affected the exhaust of the rocket only, but that exhaust being made to be rotational added a rotational stability to the rocket itself. So we've tried to do the same thing with ours on a much larger scale.
Ernst Mach and his gyro join Lord Kelvin and his liquid oxygen in the busted bin. Meanwhile, Jamie is making a more efficient string-pulled release valve to let the liquid nitrous oxide into the fuel tank. For the test, he was standing right next to the bunker. For the launch, he wants to be a bit further away.
It's important that I not be very close to the rocket when the nitrous oxide is dumped into the combustion chamber when it's lit, because there will be a lot of fire and I could get burned.
With the quick release ready and working, Jamie's routed round the shop and come up with a naval cannon launching tube.
Okay.
It's this pipe that the rocket will be propelled out of, courtesy of the Myth's Civil War gun cotton.
Karen Elizabeth Byron?
Yes.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to make us some gun cotton.
Great. What is it?
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
some kind of cotton.
Yeah.
And it's probably got some nasty chemical added to it.
It's definitely going to shorten your lifespan, but we need a bunch of it. We need to figure out how to make it and get some over to us, okay?
Sounds like fun.
Oh, by the way, it's quite possibly explosive when you're done making it, so, be careful. Keep that in mind.
You guys always give me the best jobs.
Gun cotton is what apparently gave the rocket its initial thrust. It's an important but dangerous part of this myth. So the recipe is a MythBusters secret.
Okay, we're adding a half ounce of to a half ounce of slowly.
When you add donkey to rooster, you get a violent reaction.
And all that wonderful smoke cannot be good.
So it's in with the cotton wool.
I don't know how much I trust respirators and masks at this point. That stuff looks just disgustingly fatal.
The rest of the fatal process is classified. But after a complicated afternoon, Carrie's gun cotton is all set for a test.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Woo!
Oh.
Not bad.
That makes a big difference.
The secret recipe works. The gun cotton is remarkably energetic. But could it propel a rocket out of a cannon?
All right, let's try it with the cannon.
Cool.
This is the crucial part. If the gun cotton is powerful, then they can scale this up to give the hybrid rocket its initial thrust.
You ready? Okay. Fire in the hole in 3, 2, 1.
success. And with more of it, it could just be enough to kickstart the rocket out of its naval cannon launch tube. The fifth and final mythical ingredient is ready. The gun cotton check. That just leaves the last details. First, the nose cone.
I don't have a big enough piece of wood for the nose cone, so I'm going to lay that out of foam. I mean, we're not putting an actual warhead on this thing.
Even the MythBusters have to draw the line somewhere. A foam nose cone will have to do. And second, a paint job. Looking pretty in pink, the MythBusters rocket is finally ready. This puppy is going to get fired.
Oh, it's gotten heavier.
Yeah, I know.
The MythBusters' homemade Confederate rocket is about to shoot for the moon. Time to return to the desert. Where things have started badly.
And we're stuck. But it's only the biggest vehicle in the fleet that's stuck. So we're using every other vehicle to get it out.
Jamie drove them into this mess, so he's got to dig them out.
What else do we have to stick under there? Anything?
But they're not having much luck. And believe me, this is not a fun place to break down.
We were hoping to work for the morning and then go back to the hotel, have a hacienda, work later in the day so we didn't take the heat of the sun. But no! Go ahead and pull. Pull, pull, come on, pull!
At 110 degrees, reinforcements are called. And with some tow truck talent, she's out. Freed at last, Jamie swings the truck around and gets stuck again.
Is there anything I could say that would make this more poignant? I don't think so.
Like rats in a sinking ship, the team abandon their lamentable lorry and take all their rocket equipment with them. After finally arriving on site, the race is on to get the rocket ready and fired. And to start, Adam finishes off the cannon-inspired gun barrel. To get the launch trajectory, Adam's attaching an A-frame to it. Meanwhile, Jamie's back to pulling strings.
I've run the pull cord, which opens the nitrous valve the entire distance because I want to feel what it feels like and have somebody watching on the other end to make sure that it actually worked.
We're ready for the test whenever you are.
Yo!
Hey!
That was it, right on the ball.
Hey, that worked!
With the quick release valve working from 500 feet, the team slide the rocket into the cannon.
Favor the far side.
Add the wax fuel, and then seal her up.
Perfect. Lovely. Fabulous. You're the man. Stud. What?
And next up for these studs is the erection.
There you go, Eric. Watch your fingers.
She's nearly ready.
You like it? Yeah.
Jamie adds Carrie's gun cotton propellant to the base of the cannon. And that just leaves the fuel oxidizer, the liquid nitrous oxide. As the team make the final preparations, it seems this hybrid rocket has come a long way from the original myth. So is any part of this parable actually true?
They did have gun cotton in 1865, and they did have steel. They did have nitrous oxide.
Firing a rocket from a tube, totally plausible. Completely within the realm of possibility.
Building the rocket is one thing. All of the processes that go into actually launching it make it
in my opinion, improbable, but not impossible for them to have done in that era.
The Civil War rocket. Improbable, but not impossible. Sure, the MythBusters have made a few changes, but does it really stand a chance of flying the mythical 120 miles?
All right, here's the percentages. 60% chance that we get a lot of flame and a lot of fuss and bother, and the rocket doesn't leave the tube. 5% chance that it blows up in the tube from too much pressure or something like that. What have I got left, 35? Yeah, I'll give 20% chance of a successful launch and 15% chance of something I cannot even remotely predict.
Well, let's find out. Adam's going to press the button, then Jamie will yank open the quick-release valve.
All right, here goes the big boom Civil War rocket. In 3, 2, 1, ignition. Something's happening. Here it goes.
Woo! I know, me too.
Yeah! I forgot to take a picture. Sir?
Good job, Jimmy. Good job, everybody.
Wow.
Got out of the barrel, right in the air. Our first hybrid rocket.
And didn't she do well? It took a while for the nitrous oxide to mix with the fuel, but then she was off.
Nice, nice work. Should we go find our rocket?
Yeah.
All right. Is it that thing right that way?
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, so I'll pace it off while we walk out.
That was a rocket. There's no two ways about it. For being made out of some plumbing pipe and pipe caps, it's not half bad. That was heavy.
It weighed over 200 pounds. But how far did it go?
I got it! Here it is! There you go.
1, 2, 3. Made it about 500 yards in 2 days. 2 days, baby. Let anybody else do that and get something airborne like this out of plumbing parts and a visit to your local hardware store.
A little hubris from the Heinemann.
And rightly so. After all, they just built a rocket out of plumbing parts in 48 hours. Want to see it again? The 200-pound Civil War rocket came straight out of the barrel, but had nowhere near the thrust of modern rockets. A success, but still 119 miles shorter than the Myth.
So there you have it, Confederate rocket. Is it busted, plausible, or confirmed?
Totally busted. You know, we got airborne with stuff that they could have had, they could have put together, but nowhere near 120 miles.
I agree. They had access to all this technology, but putting it all together didn't happen for another, maybe even 100 years. And we made a good effort, and I'm so glad we got a launch, but this one's busted.
Busted.